And there's the intro for Sweet Child of Mine. All right, so now let's take a look at the verse for Sweet Child of Mine. There's two guitars going on here, as in many of Guns N' Roses' songs. They have two different parts for each section of the song. So the basic part will be just simply a D chord, and often we can add the sus to it, which is just taking a D shape, adding the 3rd fret on the high E string with your 4th finger there. And usually when you add that sus, you're going to take it off pretty quickly. That's going to be played for 2 measures. We'll have the D with the D sus for 2 measures. So the first phrase could be something like this: D, add the sus, take it off, and then pick maybe the B string to the high E string. It's a little bit different each time it's played throughout the song. So as long as you come up with a good groove, it's going to sound great. So we have that D and the D sus for the first 2 measures. The next chord is C. And then with this C chord, we're going to add the note D on the 3rd fret of the B string. This makes the chord a C add 9 chord. And we can do that same little trick where we take our 4th finger, add that D note, and then pull off. After we do the pull off from the 3rd fret to the 1st fret on the B string, I'm going to play the G string and then come back to the B string. Again. The next chord is G, and the G chord is also played for 2 measures. And then we go back to the D chord for 2 measures. So it's 2 measures of D, 2 measures of C, 2 measures of G, back to 2 measures of D. And then those 8 measures start all over again. So the basic chord structure could sound something like this. Okay, so there's also a second guitar part on top of this, which is outlining the same chords, but it's going to be a little busier here. We're going to start off with a D up here on the 10th position here. It's like the top part of a D bar chord. So I'm playing on frets 12 on the D, 11 on the G, and then 10 on the B and the E string. We're just going to simply hold that for a measure and let it go for another measure, because we have 2 measures of D. And then we're going to move down to C. And with this C, I'm going to do this trick where I'm going to play it with the 4th finger on the 10th fret of the E string, and then pull off back to the 8th fret. And then I'm going to play the B string, which is being played on the 8th fret now. So far we've done this. Now we're going to go down to a G chord. And I'm going to do a little bit of picking with the G chord. After strumming the G, I'm going to back pick the top 3 strings twice. Now we're going to play a D chord. Add the 4th finger here, so it's D sus. You never stay there long. Pull it off. Back to the B string, and then hit the top of the chord. Okay, so that takes us through 1 round. Okay, the next round is going to be a little busier, so why don't I play through it and then we'll break it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're outlining the same chord shapes, but we're going to do a little picking from each of these chords. So here's what's happening. Starting off with a D chord shape, we're going to pick the D string to the B string, back to the G. And now I'm not going to play on the high E string. Now I'm going to lift off my middle finger and play that high E string open. So far we've done this. Now back pick to the B to the G string. Now we're going to add the middle finger back on the high E string on the 2nd fret. So we've played a complete D chord now. So far we've done this. Now come back and pick the B and the G string. Now we're going to play a little run here on the high E string. We're going to play it on the 2nd fret, 3rd fret, back to the 2nd fret, open. So far we've done this. And now we're going to play the B string on the 3rd fret, so that note is D. So here's what we've done so far. Now we're moving on to the next chord, which will be played like this. Okay, it's going to be a C add 9 chord. I'm going to play with my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the A, 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the D, open G, and then 3rd fret of the B string. And I can also get the high E in there, open. Okay, that's a C add 9. And here's the picking pattern. Okay, so what I'm doing here, starting off on the A string, to the G, D to B, back to the G, back to the D, and then to the high E. And that's half of it, that's one measure. Once again. Okay, now we're going to pick the B string back to the A string, B string to the G string, and then we're finally going to end this chord by playing A to G. All right, so if I put those two measures together, here's what we've done for the C add 9 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, 2, 3, 4. All right, so the next chord in the song is G, and here's what the riff will sound like for the G chord. Okay, so here's what's going on here. We're going to hammer on from the open A to the 2nd fret of the A string. Then we're going to jump all the way to the 3rd fret of the B string, and that note is D. Now we're going to play that same 3rd fret of the B string again and come back to the open G. So far we've done this. Now we're going to back pick the top 3 strings, come back to the B string, and then back pick the top 3 strings again. Okay, so if we put it all together, here's what we've done now for the G chord so far. Okay, so now we're up to the last 2 measures, which go back to a D chord. And here's what we're going to do to end off this round. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this starts off with this D shape. I'm going to play the open D string and then play the B back to the G string. Hit the top part of the D chord. And now the G string, 2nd fret. Do the sus. The D sus is where you add your 4th finger on the 3rd fret. So I'm going to play that sus and then pull off with my 4th finger. And then play the B string and then just back pick the top part of a D chord. So it all sounds like this.